Get ready for your daily dose of WordPress and web development tips, tricks, and insights to help you find success with WordPress. You're listening to WP the Podcast with your hosts, David Blackman and Tim Streifler.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of WP the Podcast, brought to you by WP Gears. I'm Tim Streifler, and my co-host David Blackman is out for the time being, taking some much-needed time off. So it's just me for the next couple of episodes, and he will hopefully be back with us soon. In today's episode, we're talking about 3 retail principles you should not mimic in e-commerce. And so e-commerce is something I'm passionate about. I have an e-commerce store. We do talk about e-commerce and marketing from time to time on WP the Podcast because a lot of our listeners out there are building e-commerce stores for clients or for themselves. But yeah, e-commerce is obviously a really great way to make a living with a business. And so it's funny because when e-commerce started to become popular, it was like it tried to mimic retail in a lot of ways and tried to be like just an online version of retail, but there's a lot of things that are different. And there's a lot of things that you should not mimic in e-commerce. There's some things that you should mimic in e-commerce that we probably don't do enough in e-commerce. We're actually going to be talking about that in tomorrow's episode, but today we're talking about 3 retail principles you should not mimic in e-commerce. Now, the first one is when you retail stores like big box stores like Best Buy and Target and stuff like that, when they put electronics or other quote unquote sexy products in the back of the store, they do that because they want you to walk through and walk by all their other products, and so that you could see other stuff you might need or want and pick it up if your intention is to go and look at the the really big stuff, the TVs, the game systems, and the smart products, stuff like that. And so it makes sense for retail, but for e-commerce, you definitely don't want to do that. You don't want to hide your more expensive, more sexy products in the back of your e-commerce store, so it's hidden. No, you want those front and center, because on e-commerce you have pages, and people are going to be clicking through multiple pages to find what they're looking for. If you have a high ticket product that people want, you want that front and center so they can get to it easily, click it right away. You want that on the home page, on the main e-commerce store page. So that's one thing you do not want to mimic in an e-commerce store, is putting the electronics, the sexy products in the back of the store. So that's the first one. The second one is something that you don't want to mimic is you don't want customers to walk out without purchasing something. So a lot of times you can go and walk into a retail store, again, like a Best Buy or a Target. If you've never heard of those stores, you're outside of the US, I'm sorry. I'm sure you have equivalent stores, but those are 2 popular American stores that sell, kind of everything. And you can walk into one of those retail stores, look for something, don't see it, and then walk away and leave without ever talking to one of their employees, without leaving anything, without, you can just basically go in and walk out as if you never were there. But you don't want to do that in e-commerce. If someone goes on your e-commerce store and they don't see what they're looking for, you want to be able to stop them, get their email somehow using exit intent, for example, and then say, hey, you didn't find what you're looking for? Let us know what we can do. Email us, or leave your email. We'll follow up with you. So you want to be able to somehow stop them and figure out why they're leaving your store. And with automated technology tools, you can do that on e-commerce, but you can't exactly do that easily in retail. They only have so many employees, and so they can't stop everyone to figure out, why they're leaving and why they're not purchasing anything. So that's one thing you definitely want to do is figure out ways using exit intent to stop people before they leave, to figure out, what you can do to help them. And that's an easy thing to implement on an e-commerce store. So that's the second thing. The third thing that you should not mimic in e-commerce that retail does is not remarketing to past customers. So for example, a lot of times you'll buy something from Best Buy, Target, any retail store, and 90% of the time you'll never hear from them again. If you happen to walk back into the store to repurchase, something and buy something else, that's great. But a lot of times you're doing that on your own accord rather than, being encouraged to do so. But with e-commerce, you can easily remarket to past customers, collect their emails. When they check out, you have to collect their email anyways to send them, their email receipt. And so you can remarket to them, send them other products when you're doing a sale. You can also pixel them so that when they buy something, you can remarket to them on Facebook or Google or other things like that, because they say it's 10 times more expensive to find a new customer than it is to sell to an existing customer. So if someone's already purchased from your e-commerce store, you want them coming back to purchase more. And so you can do things like email marketing and doing paid ads, doing remarketing ads to get them to come back and buy again. Where retail, they try to do that a little bit. They try to get your email when you're checking out. But most people don't want to give it to them. And so you have that advantage in e-commerce because you kind of have to give it to the store. And there's, GDPR things to consider and make sure they, are opting in to receive marketing and stuff like that. We're not going to get into that today. But so those are the things that you definitely do not want to mimic in e-commerce, is letting customers just leave out the door, not remarketing to them, putting the sexy products so they're hidden in the back of the store. Those are things you do not want to do. Tune in tomorrow. We're going to talk about 3 retail principles that you should mimic in e-commerce. Until tomorrow, we'll see you then. Take care. Bye-bye.
We've come to the end of today's episode of WP the Podcast. Join us tomorrow for more daily tips and strategies designed to help you run your WordPress business towards success. Remember to subscribe to WP the Podcast so you can stay up to date with each episode. And don't forget to rate and review us. We'll see you again tomorrow right here on WP the Podcast.